Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. It's Friday, and you know what that means. It means that we are going to be previewing the weekend in professional wrestling. We've got SmackDown to talk about. We've got Collision to talk about. So, we need a panel who is very good at talking. Firstly, the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. How are things, Clark?
What's going on, Ben? It's Friday. I'm stoked to be here as usual. What a fun weekend. We got a fun UFC tomorrow night. We've got fun wrestling tonight. We've got more fun wrestling tomorrow night. Once again, it's all combat sports all the time right now. And I'm just hyped to get into it. Let's talk about SmackDown tonight. Let's talk a little AEW. Let's talk a little bit elsewhere. And I'm ready to get into it.
Absolutely. It's going to be a fun one. And the best news about all of this is that the UFC is on, in the afternoon for you guys in America tomorrow, which means that it's not going to clash with AEW Collision. So AEW, I bet, will be very happy about that. But also joining us, the head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. How are you, Anthony?
Doing all right. AEW will be clashing with Bound for Glory, though, in the Chicago. So that should be interesting if that has any role in that. We'll be talking about SmackDown tonight. Even though I won't be watching it, I'll be watching my Phillies, hopefully winning tonight. But, let's talk some wrestling.
Oh, gosh. AEW and WWE seemingly are both having to deal with counter-programming then tonight. But it's going to be interesting to see, how WWE answer to, a huge baseball game going on at the same time, because that certainly could affect TV ratings. But also joining us, we have all the way from NXT off the air every Tuesday, Shad. How are you today, Shad?
I'm doing great, Ben, Clark, Anthony. Good to see y'all again. We was reviewing yesterday, and we get to talk about SmackDown. I'm excited for this weekend. Shout outs to the good people of Intense Action Wrestling. They got a show tomorrow out around my way in Manassas Park, Virginia. I'm excited to see that. A lot of talent that I'm not too familiar with. Some I've done a little bit of research and should be fun. But hey man, let's talk raps.
There is nothing better than going to, an independent show and finding a young up and coming star and you're like, they're next. And then they actually end up being next. It is nothing more satisfying than that. We got Anthony Manzano in the chat, otherwise known as Clark's best friend. Welcome.
What's going on?
Welcome to the show, Anthony. And let's jump right into things right away. And let's talk about Roman Reigns. Because today on WWE socials, they announced that Roman Reigns will be defending the undisputed Universal Championship against LA Knight at Crown Jewel in just a few short weeks. November 4th. This match, if you told somebody a year ago that LA Knight was going to be in this position, in the position where he's challenging in the main event of a show like Crown Jewel for the Universal Championship, people would have laughed at you. Not because he's not good, he's amazing, there's no doubt about that, but he was Max Dupree. Nobody bought it. Roman Reigns, LA Knight, I'm very, very excited for this, but I also just want to give Roman Reigns some appreciation for a second, right? I don't believe he's going to lose the title at Crown Jewel, but Kofi Kingston today called him, he said that he's one of the greatest of all time now. He's up there with the likes of Undertaker and John Cena, and that's a big statement to make, but what I will say is this. I don't think we're going to see anything like this championship reign in a world championship way again for the rest of our lives. I really, really don't think we're going to see a 1,000 plus, 1,500 plus it'll probably get to, day reign in our lifetime. I really, really don't. I never thought we'd see it again, and I'm not sure if we will see it again after this point. I mean, who knows? Never say never. But people's attention spans are, they're shortening, and the fact that WWE have been able to pay this off, and it be as entertaining as it has been. I think that's very commendable on their part. People can say whatever they like about, Roman's schedule, but when he shows up, it's must watch. And Clark said it last week. When Roman Reigns goes away for a little bit, as soon as he comes back, all eyes are on the product like they were last week. And now all eyes will be on LA Knight as he gets an opportunity to possibly dethrone Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia. Clark, give me your thoughts on this blockbuster match.
This is something I'm super excited about, and I think it's really huge. It's as big for Reigns as it is for LA Knight, and I think that's something that's hard to quantify. Reigns is going to win. I almost have no doubt about that, and I'm not saying that this is telegraphed, because I do believe that there's an avenue for them to tell a story where we believe that LA Knight can win this title at this event, but this is about Reigns' reign, as you mentioned, and the length of it. This is something we'll never see again. No doubt. We'll never see somebody carry a world title for over 1,000 days. It's just not something we'll see. While it's possible that Reigns breaks records and whatnot, LA Knight in this loss needs to look as good as possible. This needs to feel as close as humanly possible. That's the issue at hand here that we need to deal with. We need to make LA Knight look like a star, because there is the world title on Raw that he can chase. There is the United States title. There is the Intercontinental title. Other avenues to present him with the belt to continue this run that he's on. What we need to do is have Roman Reigns go over and not halt the momentum that LA Knight currently has. And that to me is the key to the whole operation. And of all people, right this second, I believe Roman Reigns can do it as well as anyone in this whole industry.
Undoubtedly. I cannot disagree with you there, Clark. We got a couple of comments here. We got Cool Gamer in the chat. Welcome, Cool Gamer. And Anthony Manzano's asking, is he even close to Bruno Sammartino? No, he's not, and he's not going to get that close.
That won't happen.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Never
again,
say never.
He may be close to. He might be
like
close to
7
Bruno's second reign. Bruno's second reign was almost 4 years, but the initial 8-year run, there's no chance.
Never say never, but never. But what about you, Anthony? What do you think about, this main event in Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia?
It is predictable that Roman's going to go over. The main focus has to be for Roman to make LA Knight at least look strong in defeat. And Roman's that type of performer that could make whoever goes against him look better or stronger coming out of the match, even though they've lost. He's been doing it for 3 years. So I think that's the main focus here, to maintain LA Knight's momentum, like Clark had mentioned. But realistically, LA Knight has no shot here. He's not the guy that's going to dethrone Roman. And if anybody's going to dethrone Roman, it ain't going to be in the Saudi show. They're not going to end 3+ years of dominance at one of the Saudi shows. Being real about it, they're not. So it doesn't really matter who he's facing. He could be facing Cody right now. I don't think Cody would go over him. Nobody's going to beat him in Saudi. They're not going to do it over there. That'd be my guess.
Here's the thing, though, right? UFC have now, there's very much rumors. I'm not sure if it's confirmed yet, but I know Dana White's spoken about it, about possibly doing a show in Saudi Arabia. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is confirmed that they're going to be doing.
There's nothing official. It's confirmed that there are talks.
Right. Okay. Because I know Dana White was talking about it, and so was Ari Emanuel. That's right. Ari Emanuel was saying about it the other day. If TKO, we're about to have a big, partnership with Saudi Arabia, with everything that's going on with, what's it called, the PFL as well, right? That's what I mean. Ari Emanuel said it the other day. The PFL getting investment from Saudi Arabia was one of the reasons why the TKO stock
PGA
dipped.
Tour.
Yeah, I mean,
well.
let's say, right, if TKO were to come to an agreement, maybe with big annual shows there, which would generate a lot of money, then who knows? Maybe a big championship reign could be a way to
It's
make
not
that
going to be LA
news
Knight.
break.
LA Knight's not the guy.
I don't
Let's
know.
be
that
real.
I don't think
LA
he is.
Knight
Trying to
would make any sense there. And not only that, I think the two are separate issues there, for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know.
And if that were the deal, I would say actually they'd rather Roman Reigns hold the belt.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I just mean a big newsworthy moment to try and bring eyes to it in some way. I mean, maybe that newsworthy moment is The Rock confronts Roman Reigns. Who knows? We
Look,
can
they're
speculate on that.
the UFC's in Abu Dhabi this week,
Yeah.
right? On a card that's been just furiously turned over, but is fascinating. It's one of those fascinating UFC cards of all time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's gonna be very exciting tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, obviously the PFL thing, which I'm still shocked about how much of a concern that has been for the the stock, because it's not recovered as well from it. But that's gonna be interesting to see what happens. But we got a few comments here. We've got Daniel Price saying Knight's not taking the title off him, but it'll be a DQ win and they'll protect him in a loss. I think it's gonna be I think Reigns is gonna get the pin 1, 2, 3, but I think it'll be all the usual bloodline. Yeah, Solo and Spike. We got Fernando in the chat giving a shout out to Shad that year.
Let's go, boy.
Big shout out, Fern.
And we've also got Daniel Price clarifying that they've signed they signed WWE has signed with Saudi Arabia until 2020.
I do think on the comment about the DQ loss, I think it's more likely we see something like the guillotine choke reapplied the way that Reigns was using it early, and maybe a little bit similar where like Austin went out, not necessarily with blood the way he did against Bret Hart in the submission match, but something like that. Very valiant.
You mean like the Cody thing?
Yeah, something similar where like he goes out to the guillotine. Maybe some cheating involved there, but I would say I'd be more inclined to believe that would be the outcome than a DQ, because I don't know how you leave an arena that size and a contract that big on a DQ loss. There's time and place for DQ losses. I love them as like a fantasy booker as much as the next guy, but that just doesn't seem like the time nor the place.
Pay-per-view ending I don't think ever works with a DQ. That's my hot take. But I mean, what about you, Shad? How are you feeling heading into this match? Do you think there's any chance that LA Knight does take this title?
I mean, anything is possible, right? But I don't see him as the opponent that will take the title off of Roman, just because, I don't know, there hasn't been enough of a build for me to feel like he'd be the one. It definitely does just feel like a hot matchup off of the fact that LA Knight is super over, very popular. And I mean, I think they were chanting his name last Saudi show when he wasn't even there at the press conference, and that's pretty telling. And the moment itself would be crazy if he did get the title off of Roman, wherever it may be, whether it be in Saudi or the States. But I don't think within the storyline and just off of the character, he is built to be the one to get the title off of Reigns. But I think it's definitely going to be a match that's going to be worthwhile for everyone to be excited to watch. I think the one interesting thing, cool thing about this is I think this is the first person that Roman's feuded in a while that has a very different type of persona and character. He's a lot more entertaining in a way compared to other people where they have a lot more serious or they're a better worker or whatever it may be with a babyface. This is a guy who has a lot of swagger, charisma, is very funny in some ways, and very different personality compared to what Roman Reigns is as a tribal chief. So I do like that dynamic of them feuding, and I have interest of it because LA Knight, is the man.
Absolutely. And we managed to get through, and don't ruin it, Clark, an entire LA Night segment without Clark talking over one of us doing a yeah chant. So that is a success. You can just
Thank
have
you.
first in.
Thank you, Sam. Chudri, thank you. In the comments, he got me. Wait,
Oh,
yeah!
yeah. Oh, no! No! No!
That's my brother, man. Not my blood brother. That's one of my
no.
best friends in the world too, man. Shout out to Zion.
Yes, he's always got my back.
He's
Yeah.
gonna be he's officiating my wedding, man. So salute to him.
Hey,
Oh,
shout
yes,
out.
monster shout out.
Yeah,
But
man.
now let's move on
Make
and
sure you
let's
sneak in a yeah.
Don't do
let's
that, bro.
move
I'm
on.
gonna tell someone
Do
else.
it.
Let's move on before I go mad on the LA Night yeah chance again, and let's talk about somebody who a lot of people like to go mad for, and that is Logan Paul, who of course
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed in you. Let's move on. Let's talk about Logan Paul because of course he beat MMA star, I guess you could call him, Dylan Dennis last weekend in an absolutely embarrassing boxing fight. But yeah, Logan Paul got the victory in the end, and immediately following that, he called out the WWE United States Champion, Rey Mysterio. And I said this, earlier this week on the podcast. The fact they did this call out immediately following that fight is gold, right? They asked him, what's next for you in boxing? And he spun that and said, WWE, Rey Mysterio. That publicity for WWE is huge. That's what you want to happen. Well done to everybody, who made sure that happened. If that was Logan Paul's decision, shout out to him. But tonight, Logan Paul and Rey Mysterio will both be on the blue brand. Clark, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. I'm excited about it. I mean, Logan did do what I needed him to do. It's the first time I've ever rooted for a Paul verbally, out loud, with my own words in any combat sport. I rooted for Logan against Dylan Dennis. This guy was a punk, and he put him away. And then what I loved about it most was when he called out Rey Mysterio. I hate to admit it. But he's starting to do some stuff that I don't dislike the guy as much as I used to. I think he's kind of cool. I mean, Logan, yeah. I hate to be that guy too. I just doubled up on the yes, but I mean, Logan's not as bad as Jake, and I kind of dig it. And Rey Mysterio is Rey Mysterio. I love him for like his rivalries in WCW, everything he's done for professional wrestling, his run as world champion. But I've seen a lot of Rey Mysterio in my lifetime, and I'm not going to lie to you, it's not what it used to be. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, but it's just not what it used to be. And
I'm going to argue on this point real quick. I'm going to jump in. Do you think that it's not what it used to be, right? I mean, there's no doubt that he's going to slow down in the ring, but it's not
what it used to be because he's 50.
But do you think that maybe
That's
it's
the
because
answer.
of how long you've seen him for, but he's still inspiring these young kids to come to events because there's still everybody, you've seen at these events wearing Rey Mysterio masks.
Sting is still a draw. John Cena is still a draw, inspiring people. And we can talk about his bell-to-bell acumen coming off of, the Hollywood, right?
Come on, Rey Mysterio is not that level now. Come on.
Rey Mysterio is not Hollywood at all. He's 50. And he's bumped around and worked one of the most athletic, diverse move sets in the history of wrestling and bumped as a smaller wrestler for the majority of his career, even in comparison to guys who have lasted as long as he has. He has bumped more because he's on that end, given his size and style. And I love Rey Mysterio, but for his own health, I hope this is either his final run or close to it.
So he's
Because-
confirmed that this week. He said that he originally said he was going to retire next year, but now he's looking at. He said he's made a promise that he's retiring within the next 2.5 years, but it might be as early as next year because that was what he originally told his wife. So yeah.
I don't mind it either way, and Ray has earned the right to work. But just using Ray as a guy who's so experienced that he can put over people the way that he has to bump in relation to other wrestlers of a larger size that do not have to wrestle that style when doing this part of the back end of their career, right?
Yeah.
During the final stages of their career, they don't have to bump in that way. Sting is not taking the bumps that Ray is
That's
taking,
true.
right? He's just not. And that's no knock on either. They're two of my heroes. But the longer Ray goes, even what the dives used to be, right, are different and safer. So you see the torpedo under the basically bottom rope as opposed to the
That's true.
old school suicida of the old school springboard, all of that stuff that he used to do. You see those things for his offense. His defense is still the same. He gets slammed around the same way he always did. And Rey Mysterio is so great and deserves so much. I think that for this last run of his career and what he's given to the industry, him bumping for talent just to put them over isn't worth it. Great storytelling to put talent over is worth it. And that's what Ray deserves.
Fair
because
enough.
he's done enough. He's done enough of the bumping.
At the same time, though, he's a smaller guy, so you've got to add a bit of a realism to it that he does get slammed around. Very quickly before we move on, I'm going to ask you a very tough question, Clark. Right? You spoke about Rey Mysterio in the ring. Chris Jericho is 52 right now. Who do you reckon currently is in better shape He's putting on better quality matches in the squared circle? Rey
I would say
Mysterio
Chris
or
Jericho every single time. Not close.
Really?
And I think a lot of that has to do with opportunity and the time in the matches. But I mean, Ray's running a formula.
That's true.
He's taking big bumps, and I'm not saying it's the same every time because he's so capable and he's so talented. But Chris is out there working with younger talent, and while similar age, the matches are different. And
That's true. That's a good point.
In that way, and I don't think that either are a disservice to wrestling. That is not what I'm saying. I think that both Chris Jericho and Rey Mysterio, do not get me wrong, I'm not saying Rey Mysterio does not provide value. I'm saying I'm tired of seeing him take power bombs or being slammed into the railing to head to commercial at this point in his career, predictably 5 minutes into the match. Toss him out, throw him into the rail. Oh, commercial break. Yes, as usual. Classic, right? It's time for storytelling on Ray. Jericho, I think, has provided a ton to AEW. By the way, hit or miss storyline wise. I think that's kind of part of the brilliance of Chris Jericho. That's something we'd never seen in WWE. I don't know that that's in Ray personally. Like, that's not something he's interested in. So to me, that's apples and oranges, the comparison of the two. Right?
No, it is a very difficult comparison, but it's in my opinion. I just basically think that, on a weekly basis, when they wrestle, Rey Mysterio looks a little more polished. Right? That's what I'll say on the matter. I think what Ray does is a bit more polished, but it is a point where you said, right, that Ray's doing a lot of the same stuff each week, where Jericho's mixing it up, which has an effect on how polished things are as well, right? But I am actually surprised you were so confident with that Chris Jericho answer. But before we move on, we got a couple of comments. We got quite a few comments. You got Shad in the comments. You're also on the stream. Oh, wait a second. This is Shad's secretary. That's what Chaos says, doesn't it? He gets
it's got to be AI.
Yeah. got an
It's
AI comment bot
Yeah.
review. But he's saying
It's a-
Logan for the US title, but Daniel Price disagrees as he's saying the polls are scumbags. I don't care how many eyes it brings to the product. Well, at the end of the day, it's a business.
I've always thought that too.
so
and
sorry,
also-
Daniel.
It's also like Logan's been great in WWE. I'm sorry, I
He
get
has
it with
been
some
awesome.
people, but like he's been like actually like fantastic.
I
But-
like seeing the world burn. I want to see everybody mad. I want to see Mr. Daniel Price be upset. I'm joking around. Don't be upset about that, Daniel. Really, but
Well-
I like seeing. It adds a different element to it. If he was to, obviously, I think he's going to get a title at some point. If it's going to be any title, I think this is probably the best opportunity. Give him like a month and a half, 2 months reign. Maybe let him lose it at Survivor Series or somebody.
Yeah. LA Knight, yeah. But we got Daniel Price agreeing with me, saying Rey Mysterio is more polished.
How many people has Chris Jericho wrestled that
So-
he hasn't in the past? And how many has Ray wrestled that he has a history with or a connection to during this time frame? And given the storytelling, think of it that way. Ray's working
can I
with
say one thing?
Santos. Ray's working
Yeah,
with
go
ahead,
for it, Shard.
I think both can be true. I think Rey Mysterio does have cleaner matches. I think he stays to his strong suits of what he can do at this point. But I have enjoyed more Chris Jericho matches in the last year than Rey Mysterio. I feel like
That's a
he
good perspective.
is able to give you matches and a better thing. And if I had to pick one, it's hard. I couldn't pick one out of the two in a career wise. Both are legends. Both are two of the best. 50 plus doing great work, man. Kudos to both of those guys.
Absolutely. And Sayame is saying that he wants a villainous reign from Logan
Yes.
Paul.
That's why he's my bro, man. He thinking like
I'm with you on that.
Let's now move
100%.
on and let's talk. Well, let's move on to AEW and let's move on to previewing AEW Collision because, of course, last week on Collision, we saw the segment where CJ Perry, otherwise formerly known as Lana in WWE, was starting to, recruit some talent, and Action Andretti said, hey, I want a piece of this. I want in. And Miro was not too happy about that, and Miro took out Action Andretti during a backstage promo. He was doing and said that CJ Perry is not going to be allowed to, to interfere with him in AEW. Miro is gaslighting, Miro's manipulating, Miro's controlling, all of these bad things in his relationship right now. CJ Perry doesn't look like she can get a break. Anthony, what are your thoughts heading into Miro versus Action Andretti tomorrow night, AEW Collision?
I honestly don't have too many thoughts on this. It's an angle that it's Miro against a jobber. It's not really compelling. It's a soap opera. I don't want CJ, my wife, in my corner, but I don't want her in anybody else's corner. Action Andretti, I don't see anything in him. I hate being the guy that's complaining about stuff, but honestly, I don't. What's the compelling nature of this? Like, I don't get it. Miro deserves better than this. He had a one of the better TNT title reigns, and this is the angle they stick him in. I don't
to be fair, they haven't given us a reason to care about Action Andretti. I will agree with that. Ever since that Jericho one.
Story, then Miro wants to beat the ever-loving all of it out of the guy that wants to do it to his wife.
That's not the angle they've.
Action Andretti.
There's a good comment.
I mean, they went. He walked straight up to her and said, "Nice to meet you, Miss Perry."
Well, Shard does have a good point. Shard in the comments is saying, after what Lana did with Bobby Lashley, can we blame Miro?
See?
I mean, Miro has some trust issues. I think he needs to go to relationship therapy.
Jim Ross needs to be a marriage counselor now.
Yes.
Dr. Phil. Now we need Jim Ross as the marriage counselor.
Action walks up to her and shakes her hand, and she does the, "Oh, so nice to meet you." And yeah, I mean, Action's intentions are pretty clear. And I think this is a clear shot for Miro to kick him in the face really hard a couple times, chop him across the chest really hard a
I'm
couple times.
very excited to see him destroy him tomorrow.
And then
Miro
get him in
makes
that
squash matches
neck
so good.
crank game, that nasty neck crank, the game over. That just absolute tear your head off.
Well, let's move on from Miro redeeming his wife, and let's now move on to another match in AEW, and that is the Tag Team Championships. As last week, I think it was last week, or was it the week before, we saw a shock result on AEW Collision as FTR lost the Tag Team Championships to Ricky Starks and Big Bill. Everybody was shocked. Nobody could believe it. Well, tomorrow night they will be defending their tag team gold against Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. I still am not mad about Starks and Big Bill winning those belts because Ricky Starks undoubtedly deserves it, no question about it. But Big Bill, I've said it on this podcast before, I'll say it again, he's improved so much, right? And obviously, we're not going to get into all of it, but Big Bill's been through a lot the last few years, and he's overcome everything, and he's, kept going, he's kept improving. And I think the guy, honestly, really deserves this opportunity now. And I'm glad he's got a championship belt for the first time in his career. And Ricky Starks, like I said, always entertaining. I'm looking forward to this match. I don't think we're seeing a title change, but what about you, Shad? Could we see a shocker?
Oh, absolutely not. We're not going to see a shocker. As great as professional wrestlers, one Claudio Castagnoli is, and Wheeler Yuta, even though at a Dynamite in June, he flicked the bird at me walking back out. We'll never forgive you for that, buddy. I don't think they're going to get the win. I like them. I like Ricky Starks and Big Bill as a unit. I said it a few months, like a month ago on the pod or whenever they initially started. And I thought them winning the championship titles was a refreshing thing for this tag division. It feels like the AEW tag division has lost a little bit of life. And that's obviously no knock to FTR at all. They're still the greatest tag team in pro wrestling. But it seems like there's been a lot of knocks in the division. Injuries have happened and whatnot. A lot of craziness has happened. I think this is a good way to let them give the titles up and put it within a young star like Ricky Starks and a powerhouse that is Big Bill, who has aligned perfectly good. He's been doing such great work in tag team wrestling and just in general, and it adds more of legitimacy within his character with Ricky Starks. I like him, and I think they have an opportunity to have a nice, little reign, see what they do, and see what builds off the characters. Ricky Starks is a heel in this position, and Ricky Starks is a champ. Always great things. So I'm excited for it, and I got them retained tomorrow night.
It should be a good one, but yeah, I do agree as well. Undoubtedly, I think they are going to retain their newly won Tag Team Championship belts. But now let's move it back over to the blue brand, because tonight, Io Sky will be defending her WWE Women's Championship against Charlotte Flair. Of course, whenever Charlotte's involved in a championship match, you really don't know which way it's going to go. Because we've seen matches which you thought, had obvious outcomes where she's been challenging before, where we're like, no way is she winning this early into so-and-so's reign, or this doesn't make sense, and then she's gone and won it. So, I'm going to be honest, I'm not ruling it out tonight, but I am going to put my money on Io Sky. But the reason that I think that's going to happen is because of a little help from Damage Control. Anthony, I'll head to you first. How are you feeling heading into this Women's Championship bout on SmackDown?
Io should win it. The win would mean more for Io beating somebody that's held the title so many times like Charlotte. Charlotte's a GOAT. Like, have her beat Charlotte. Don't have Io be a stepping stone to get Charlotte to 16 that Rick keeps pushing, that she's gotta break the record. They're a dime a dozen, these title reigns. It's not the same. But realistically, it should be a solid match if they give him enough time and they have Io win. Io will be fighting from underneath. Charlotte's obviously bigger. So you can do that and you can make it compelling. Whether or not they're going to do that, or they're just going to have a miscommunication with Damage Control, Bailey accidentally cost EO blames her? Are they going to do that and give Charlotte another reign? Charlotte doesn't need it. Let EO retain. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean that is absolutely a fair point, fair point on the matter. I mean, I do agree with you, to be honest, Anthony. All these reigns which she's having are most of them right. Other than, to be honest with you, other than that first one that she had on the main roster, they've all kind of felt like they're just trying to get her up to that 16 time, because she had one right at the start, I remember, which was really prestigious. She held it for quite a while, and then Sasha Banks went off her, and then they went back and forth multiple times, and that's when it started, and it kind of went downhill from there.
They're just inflating the numbers at this point. That's all
they
are.
Do.
They're inflating the
It's
numbers.
True, undoubtedly. I mean, at this point, I do think, like you said, a win for Io Sky would certainly elevate her, but I don't think it's going to be clean. But Shad, what's your perspective heading into this World Championship match?
I mean, I agree. I don't see a case why you would take the title off of EO, especially it just being a regular TV title match. Here's the thing. In regards to Charlotte Flair, she's still pretty good in her prime. She hasn't slowed down at all. She's still arguably the greatest women's in-ring wrestler of all time. And she doesn't necessarily need that title super quickly. I feel like you can build that up down within the next few years. And I don't think you need to do it tonight. So I'm hoping that means it's always that like gray cloud in the sky with Charlotte Flair, because you feel like the rain, there's a chance it's going to start pouring down on you and your day is going to be bad. And there's no knock on her. It's just it's repetitive booking with her title reigns, like you said. So, but I think the match is going to be great. I mean, let's talk about them when they wrestled for that NXT title a couple years ago during the pandemic time. Once Flair obviously got the NXT title off of Rhea, and then she ended up losing it to EO. I think they have a history amongst like working in series of matches together where they have pretty good chemistry, and they're both incredible wrestlers. And to me, I feel like we still need to get a payoff with EO and Bailey, and I think that payoff has to be with the title. And if I'm going to be frank with you, if anybody needs to get the title off of EO, I think Bailey deserves the title. I think she should be the one to beat EO Sky for the SmackDown Women's title, because this is a person who don't want to talk about it. This is a trooper, man. She put a lot of like hard blood, sweat, and tears for that women's division. They let her do whatever she needs to do. She was the last important like women's, besides maybe with Bianca's initial reign when she beat Sasha, we haven't had like a dominant, important reign like she was doing during the 2020 pandemic year. Like, I think the payoff should be Bailey getting that title off of her. Give her that little reign, maybe Jade builds up to beat her. Maybe somebody else, maybe EO gets the title off of her. I don't care if it's back and forth switch offs. I think you can have a great feud between them two. They've just done a poor job with building that feud for what it could be.
Yeah, no, I do agree. In fact, I don't even think, I think in this right now, they're doing a good job of building it, because I think they're just doing it very, very slowly. And I think it's going to end up, the payoff is going to be good. We got a couple of comments here. We got Anthony Manzano predicting that Io Sky will win tonight. And Anthony saying that he thinks WWE is including the title reigns for Charlotte when she was in NXT. Well, it's weird that, because at one point they were, then they're not. But I'm not sure if they are again now or not. I'm not.
No, they're not.
Okay, they're not anymore.
I remember when they had it on the graphic, they did not show it. So
they don't show that.
Unless they're showing it now just to add on to it, but I don't think they count.
The
Even the one at the
was
Performance Center at 36, it doesn't count.
The controversy was they did count them when she won that title against Ripley.
No, she did. They very much counted them at that time.
Yes,
they don't count them anymore.
I'm getting on to it.
Hindsight's always 20/20.
So I'm trying to explain why they stopped it. So they did it, right? So they counted it originally for Charlotte, and then everyone was like, well, hang on a second, you've got to count it for everybody else then. And then they were like, well, actually, we don't really want, who's an example? We don't want Neville to be considered a WWE champion. Well, we'll take this away. I mean, Sami Zayn, I don't think they'd have an issue with. But, a Neville, the likes of Neville or something like that, I don't think they wanted to be considered a world champion. So they took that away. They tried to change the rules for Charlotte, and it didn't work. But Clark, now is your chance. What are your thoughts on this storyline? And I know your thoughts on Damage Control, but will Charlotte win tonight?
I'm ready for this one. In the words of the great Icona Pop, I love it for sure. I'm in. Charlotte's got to win tonight, I think, because the real story is Charlotte Bayley, and that's what it needs to be. Io has done what she's done, and Io Sky is an immense talent. Damage Control did nothing for these three wrestlers. It's time to wipe our hands clean. Let's have the Queen come on in, end this whole deal, and then it's Bayley and the Queen in a main event. Now we're talking. Let's make the belt matter again like it should. Not that Io's reign doesn't matter. That's not Io's fault. But Io seems like at least the second most important person in the group she's in, carrying the world championship on one of the flagship brands. And I'm cool with it being over. Give it back to the Queen Charlotte Flair. It's going to be annoying. It'll bug everybody. I know it's going to bug people on this very show. Listeners, it's going to bug co-hosts. I see Shad pointing at himself in the corner of the screen. Shad is bothered by it. But what I'm telling you right now is it's the move. It's best for Io. It's best for the title. And it's best for Charlotte. And most of all, it's best for someone you named earlier who is the deserved SmackDown Women's Champion, the WWE Women's Champion. And that is Bayley. Because Bayley carried that title better than anyone, including Drew McIntyre. And that's not, that was a bit of a slight, but I didn't mean it like that too much. But she carried the title better than anyone. The Bayley dose straps during the pandemic. No one deserves their comeuppance more than Bayley. And the direct route is Charlotte winning tonight and Bayley winning that title.
I mean, Shard, I can see you were not happy about that.
We want to go to, so you and I want to go to the final destination. We know where the party's at. The party is bumping, is good music, everything. The vibes is great. But the route you want to take is so far distance. It's going to take you an additional 20 minutes. You might hit a toll road. I don't like the direction towards it because as much as I love Bayley as a professional wrestler, if you put her in the title match with Charlotte Flair, I don't think she's winning versus her. They're not going to book her to win. I think
what?
I don't think they're going to book her to win versus Flair.
No, that's where she wins it. And you know where she does it? They haven't announced a December pay-per-view yet. It used to be Hell in a Cell. Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Hell in a Cell for the world title. That's a main event match. How about that? How about that for day one? How about that for Hell in a Cell? Whatever you want to call it, whether it's early January or late December.
Hell in a Cell was never in December or January.
I'll tell you what the direction will probably.
I thought it was. I thought Hell in a Cell was.
It was in September. That's October. Hell in a Cell.
The direction is probably going to be.
Which one did they take away last year?
Bayley beats Io, and then I think Flair
TLC
beats
happened.
Bayley. Oh, man, he's talking.
No. You keep going. Ben's wrong.
And I also disagree with you kind of making it seem like Io was not deserving or important as a champ. Because if you watch that match with her and Bianca, like where she lost the match, but you see how in Puerto Rico, she was super over versus one of the most over wrestlers in WWE and Bianca Belair, women or men. The only reason this title reign hasn't felt super important is because how they booked it for her. Her as a superstar, what she does, how she is as a character, I don't see any flaw in that. I think it's how they booked her. And now it seems booking is getting better now. Obviously, rumor has Triple H running stuff again. It may get better and whatnot, but I don't think any flaws on Io Sky.
Oh, yeah, because it's been great so far. I would say this. Bayley should beat whether it's Io Sky or Charlotte for the title. She should beat either one, but Bayley, Charlotte is the billboard.
I mean, we can all agree we want Bailey to be in the main event position, and we can also all agree that Hell in a Cell has never taken place in December or January.
October
I
was
want to
the
say it's
latest.
like March, right? Or February?
October 25th was the
Not March,
last
no.
one.
No, it was never March or February either. But guys,
I'm
thank
sure
you
so.
so much for
October.
watching. If you're on YouTube,
It wasn't
please
September
like...
either, which Ben said first.
Well, as you warned you, it was in September. Thank you very much for watching. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, please leave a cheeky 5 stars. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you to Clark. Thank you to Anthony. Thank you to Shad for joining me here today. It's been a banger of a show. We'll be back tomorrow to give our thoughts on Friday Night SmackDown. And thank you to everybody in the comments. We'll see you guys tomorrow.